All right, let's talk contracts. So we've worked with a lot of artists and creative people who want to get all of their businesses started. And often when you've got people who want to get a business started, they tend to enter agreements with each other. So you want to start something up, but you want to work with your friends and some kind of trusted business partner. But the problem is that maybe you don't have time or you don't have the resources to do official filing. It's just an informal thing. You and whoever it is agree to sell something or whatever. Okay, so we always encourage people to get a contract or put things down in writing. Now, before I tell you this, I have to give you the disclaimer that Social Arts and Technical Alliance are not lawyers. We encourage you to seek a real lawyer for legal advice. Um, and get that covered through official channels. So, don't sue us for this kind of thing. But we found that people really need something called a promissory note to secure the guarantees by the partners who are entering into their various styles of joint venture. Now, a joint venture contract is pretty much what it sounds like. You and somebody else are going to enter into a particular arrangement, and you're going to put your resources together to try to make something happen. Now, I've looked for templates like this, and I've known some people who also looked for this kind of template, and they're surprisingly hard to find on the web. And the reason why joint venture contracts are so hard to find is because uh, they're not standard. You and your friend are going to do something custom for which there is no state document. So in this recording, I'm going to walk through the SATA template for a promissory note, which acts like a joint venture contract. And like I said, get a real lawyer to look at this before you do anything legal, and anything heavily legally binding. And hopefully, you'll have some good foundation to build your business on. Now, whenever you have something like this, you and your friend are agreeing to start something, first of all, you need to know who the parties are. We thought about what to call these parties, and we've decided to call them the signee and the contractor. At first, we considered contractee and contractor, but that would get confusing as far as words are concerned throughout the document. So, one person's the signee, the other person's the contractor. It does not imply any kind of authority. The effective date of the agreement is when you consider this agreement to be official. So if you make the agreement today to do something with results a year from now, then this date will be today. You will be referred to as the parties in this document. And so if Joe and Jack, or now let's say Joe and Jane, enter into this agreement, then Joe and Jane together are referred to as the parties. Now, if you really want your business to get off on good footing, you need to start with a basis for communication. And so right here, as you'll find in another one of our contracts, we start by specifying where everybody can be reached. You would be surprised that people come to agreements, and then later one person tries to contact the other and they can't find them, or one person stops responding. We include this in here because we want both parties to know from the very beginning that communication is very important, and it's so important that the stuff is going on the agreement. So now there is going to be an official name for this project. You'll give it a name, call it, My Business. The name of this project shall be called My Business, where the signee and the contractor agree to provide their respective contributions for fulfilling the project's goal. What is the goal of the project? Now, you may say, our goal is to make money. That's cool. That may be the goal of your business, but that's actually not what you are supposed to put in here. What you really want to put in here is why you two are entering this specific agreement. So, okay, maybe Joe does graphic design and Jane does promotion. She does marketing, right? You might say the intent of this contract is to make money, but you shouldn't. That's going to be later. What you want to do here is say why Joe specifically and Jane specifically are coming together. So you might say something like, Jane will market Joe's stuff, or Joe will design a web interface for Jane's marketing. That's the project's goal. It's the reason that the two of you have entered into the agreement, not the reason that the business itself exists. So that's the intent of this contract. Now, both the signee and the contractor have contributions. Is Joe going to pay Jane? Is Jane going to go out and make connections? Well, you say that here. Jane will make connections every business day between 8 and 5 or something like that. Joe will do graphic design services on the WordPress site every, well, for the first month or so or whatever. Okay, so you want to know what everybody is doing and you want to know when they're doing it. This you don't have to go through a lot of trouble here, but the point is to force people to think about what specific skills each person is bringing to the contract. So, often you may want to hire somebody like a graphic designer to do something for you, like I don't know, make an ad, and that's cool. That's cool that you can enter that. But if it's going to be something like a joint venture and the two of you are not enjoying something like a client relationship, like a client service provider relationship, then it really needs to be equal as far as who is donating what. And this is where you would specify that. Okay, the project outcome. This is the place where you say Joe and Jane together are going to make money. So this is the measurables. We call it operationalization of this project. So earlier we said that Joe and Jane are coming together so that Jane can market Joe's stuff, and the overall outcome is that people will come to the website and buy things. So that's what you would put here. People will come to the website and buy things, given that Joe and Jane came together to interact specifically as people. Let me try that one more time. Our business outcome is this, given that the two people together are doing this as individuals. All right, so this lays out everybody's obligations. And I know sometimes it's ongoing. Hey, let's just start a business and let's do that business forever. Our business will take over the world and become the top of the Fortune 500 in 2 months. That's what everybody thinks, right? But no, if you really want to just start it, just put something like a year. By the end of the year, people will start coming to our site, and then you can revisit it. If you don't have a deadline on this, then it's really, really easy to lose track of your what's his face, your goals. Okay, so you note that you can always type over all of this stuff. So I'm going to put the Word doc on the site for this contract here, but you can type over this. But by default, what we have said is that if you don't have project outcome success, it doesn't necessarily mean that the project is a failure. Things take a while. People have to get experience in business. They have to learn about their markets and everything. So the contract is basically saying that, look, if we don't succeed according to our measurables here, then we're going to put in our good faith effort to either make it succeed or walk away from each other or whatever. But we're going to put a good faith effort to revisit the terms of our partnership without necessarily suing anybody or slandering anybody or whatever. Whenever we enter agreements like this, everybody's friends in the beginning, and as stuff starts to get difficult, often those friendships are strained, those partnerships are strained, and that's too bad, because if Joe and Jane decide that they hate each other, then as tempting as it may be to start slamming each other on Facebook, Joe often doesn't realize that when he slams Jane, he doesn't get access to Jane's friends anymore. And Jane doesn't get access to Joe's friends anymore. And it's actually that much harder for the two of them to get anywhere with each other. I cover that later in this contract, but just note that this agreement is built on good faith, especially because it's a joint venture and you simply can't cover every contingency. So there has to be an understanding that just because Joe and Jane are getting together doesn't mean that they're going to make millions of dollars, and they just have to be ready for that level of risk. Now, here, as far as the project outcome, we ask ourselves if there is any monetary value. The parties do or do not expect some kind of compensation based on this partnership. And you've got some options for this. If they want to do a profit split, then, maybe Joe will get 50% and Jane will get 50%. Or maybe Joe will get 80 and Jane will get 20, or vice versa, whatever. Maybe you can't split profits. Maybe there's no money involved. And so you say, well, we're starting a company, me and my homies, and I will own 80% of the company, homies will own 20. You can also have flat compensation. Maybe I'll get the rest, and you'll just type in here the rest, and your contractor will get $2 or something like that. As long as it's understood, you can put it there. And if you've got some other weird arrangement like my friends get to take all the tables, but I get to keep the Xbox, then you can put that in here. All right. So, by the way, so let's say that it comes your project deadline, and you said, oh, okay, we're going to do this for a year, and we're going to make lots of money. And after a year, you realize that you've made $10,000. How soon can people expect to get their payout? Well, that's what this says. After a year, we've gotten the results, and we have $10,000 here. We're going to split it according to whatever it said up there, and that money can be expected to be distributed in about, I don't know, 14 days or whatever. That's what this box is. Now, I put this in bold, this next part. It says both parties acknowledge that a joint venture or collaboration often presents circumstances not accounted for in the original agreement. Under such circumstances, the parties will put forth a good faith effort to communicate with each other and devise an appropriate course of action to fulfill the original intent of this agreement. Furthermore, where ambiguity exists in this contract, parties will preferably seek to clarify new terms rather than exclusively disputing old ones specified herein. Both parties acknowledge that the terms contained in this agreement reflect their best understanding of the proposed collaboration at the time the agreement is made. Changes in such understanding will be communicated to the relevant recipients in writing. What does all that say? It's like, look, this is a joint venture. It's risky. We're trying to put as much as we can in this contract, but stuff will be left out. And we realize that not only will stuff be left out, but there's some risk involved here. And, you know, if stuff starts going wrong, we don't want to say, well, I think that way up here you meant this, and this other, I meant that. And dude, you have no idea how many partnerships I've seen break because people tried to pretend that things were in the original agreement that simply weren't there. Rather than going back and try to invent reinterpretations of things that everybody felt they understood at the time, what this says is that because it's a joint venture and there will be unforeseen circumstances, we will put in our best effort to look at this contract, and if it wasn't in there, we'll just talk about what should be in there, not what should have been in there. So this is really, really important because, again, we've seen lots of relationships and partnerships break because of this. This is a 3-page contract, and there's a lot to explain, so I think I'm going to cut this video off and reserve the rest of the explanation of this contract for another video. We'll pick it up next time with point 5.